All right, everyone. Day 4 of not being a smoker. So actually, I've gotten over the infamous day 3. I am feeling slightly better now. Well, we got to talk about the bald eagles. You know those species that were destroyed by the DDT years and years ago, and they couldn't reproduce. And so now bald eagles actually they've been coming back in this state. Like I can remember even when I was a kid. Little kid. We're talking, the middle end of the 90s. There wasn't a whole lot going on with regards to some of the larger, more interesting bird species in the state. A lot of them had really been fucked over. In fact, there were some kinds of songbirds. Even like mourning doves, they were less common. And then you got the sparrows and robins and stuff, and that's basically what you saw. Oh, look at the pretty birds. But, for someone like me who wanted the big exciting birds that would rip apart a chunk of roadkill and just bury their beak in it, start ripping organs out, flailing them around, there wasn't a whole lot going on. You had a few carrion eaters, and that's about it. Now, I've seen, in the last few years, I've seen more birds of prey than I ever saw probably in my whole childhood and young adulthood in the state. We're talking bald eagles, several types of owl, like I hear them almost every night now, various hawks and falcons. I've seen like vultures, like the big ass ones perched up on the power lines. Mourning doves are now extremely common. I can remember some people were talking about how maybe half a century ago, you'd consider yourself lucky to have a couple. Now it's like they're everywhere. Part of this, though, has less to do with maybe chemicals or hunting or anything like that, or even animal protection explicitly. Part of it has to do with land usage. That is that even back in the 70s, there were quite a few more spots in the state that were not forested as compared with now. It's not until the 1980s, really, that you get full reforestation of a lot of these areas. Because they had been so vastly cleared off, it took decades for all of that stuff to creep back in. It takes time for those trees to actually seed themselves into a new area. And so then you have different wildlife, actually, that's living in those zones. It's the same with, like, our deer population. One of the reasons why we have such healthy deer, not only do we allow a little bit of hunting of them to keep the herd thinned out, you tend to remove, the sample that you remove tends to be a bit less strong than the overall total, because, the weaker members are more easy to hunt, literally. Not only do we do that, but the forest here is not old virgin forest. It's not like the old growth that you see in maybe a Disney movie, with some magical witch's hut or something. It's relatively new. And the birds like that too. It's more of a productive forest. There's more biological material there that can be used by more types of species, as opposed to something that essentially is a dead zone, very, very old trees, and not a whole lot else. Which you get in very limited spots in this actual world. But think about these pictures that you see of these great big old trees. What's growing around them? Nothing except bare dirt. There's a reason for that. Now imagine that you have tens of thousands of those in one area that have thinned themselves to a reasonable distance. There's not a whole lot going on, honestly. Very few forests like that left in the world. But we got plenty of birds, both songbirds and birds of prey. I prefer the latter because, like, owls are cool. I've always liked them. And I saw a snowy owl on several occasions. I think there may be 2 of them hanging around here. As well as just the regular, the barn owls that you get that are slightly more common. The snowy ones seem to be a bit less, but I've seen those around frequently, actually. There was an eagle hanging out, I think, last year around this general region. And so naturally the cats, you had to be there with them when they're outside, because, like, a barn owl's probably not going to carry off a cat. It's probably going to target something smaller. It also doesn't want to fly in right next to your house. The eagle, if it's hungry, it's like, well, I don't even give a shit because I'm big enough to deal with this situation. So you got to be careful of the meow meows, I suppose. That's about all. Peace out.